Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching This Is Real with Juan Martinez.
What's going on? The show has been hijacked. If you can see me, can you hear me? Please help. Phone home.
Oh my God, this is real. Juan Martinez and Cody. Wait a minute, where's Stephanie?
Hey, hold up.
What's going on?
We're coming to you live from Manhattan.
Coming to you live from Manhattan.
And
my God.
Welcome to the Worthy People Podcast. We're just having a little fun here today, and I'm so excited for this new episode that we're coming at you with none other than Pastor Juan Martinez. Welcome.
What is going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Man, I'm excited. I'm super excited. You know, I watch you. I see you around on all social media, kind of the Worthy People thing, right? And then God always has this mysterious way of doing things where people that knows somebody else that knows somebody else, and before you know it, I'm in San Antonio, like literally like at this place. It's gonna.
We're not in Manhattan.
We're not in. Oh no, we're not in Manhattan. We're in San Antonio. But nice. Hey, the New York City backdrop is good. I don't know if you just did that for me, you know, so I could feel at home.
Yeah.
But you know, this is why you consider people worthy, and so you put a whole entire backdrop, a whole city just for me.
Just for you. Man, so our mission is to remove the labels of society by seeing and accepting all people as Jesus does. And what we're doing today, we call this series Next Level with God. Mm-hmm. And we like to be able to tell those watching how we got to the next level in our life, not by doing what the world told us to do, chasing money, fame, whatever, just by serving Him, just by seeking God, and God's faithful. And so, and I know that you got a crazy story. I haven't heard all of it, all of your testimony, all of what you've been through, but I've heard bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And so, I want to be able to jump through there for those that are watching, and then talk about, hey, how did you get to the next level with God? Because, you know, going into prisons, and you go into prisons as well, in your ministry, and we can get into that. That's one of the biggest things that people always ask is like, man, how do I get there? And how you were formerly incarcerated, how are you doing this today? And I think you would probably say what I would say is like, number one, we never saw ourselves doing this.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, when we were in prison. And number two, we never sought that. We never like chased that. We never like made a plan and said, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book, open a church, have a podcast. Like, you know, that was never the plan, you know. And when we were serving God, God just, you know, opened these doors and took us to the next level. And so, let's jump into that about who is Juan Martinez and where did your life start? I know you're talking about Manhattan a lot.
Yeah. So for me, you know, I'm Puerto Rican. So, you know, Puerto Ricans are either Florida, Chicago, New York. That's where we migrate, you know. Small island, the island of enchantment, right? And so, beautiful island. My parents went to New Jersey. So I grew up where my apartment was, or, you know, where we lived at. When we walked out, there was Maxwell House and the whole New York City skyline. So that's what I saw every day. It's kind of funny how a lot of times people like, oh, wow, it's beautiful. You know, well, when you live there and you see it every day, it's just another thing, right? You don't really realize what you got in front of you until you leave. Then you're like, man, now the hotels are charging like $300 a night to see that skyline. I'm like, I lived in front of it. So we grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey before Cake Boss became Cake Boss. My mom used to get, you know, my mom was a single mom. Dad left, right? The classic story, dad left. And me and my mom kind of had to rough it through life, right? And she worked really hard. So she would go to Cake Boss and get me a donut like every other day, you know, like just to bring it home. It's kind of funny.
Watch out for that. Look at me.
Hey, look, donuts.
I got home and ate too many donuts. I ate 125 pounds since I've been home. It's so bad. Like, people are watching that I did time with, and they're like, I think that's Cody. I'm not sure.
Oh, my God. Hey, and you didn't even imagine you had Cake Boss next to you. You would be in trouble.
Man.
But you got all the tacos out here.
Yeah.
And you married a Hispanic woman, so
Yeah.
they got you tacoed up.
Yep.
And so what winds up happening is that in the context of time, grew up in Manhattan, Brooklyn, because basically we were so close. We were 5 minutes, 7 minutes away. So we're jumping turnstiles at 13. 13 is really when, since I didn't have a father figure, stepdad came into my life, but it was always you're not my dad, so rebellious, prideful, skinny kid who was Puerto Rican with light eyes and white complected, so wasn't really accepted by the Puerto Ricans. And then, so it was kind of wild. So at 13, I had to make this decision. I'm watching all these movies. I'm really into like Jay-Z. Like that's what, and these cats are selling drugs at Marcy Projects and stuff. Oh, yeah. All of that. Big Pun, all these guys. So that's what's influencing me. Grew up on the block, got all these cats. I started selling at 13. I start, getting into marijuana and mescalines. I don't know if you know what they are. They're like acid, they look little tiny tarts, like little things that you just out of the mescaline. And so we would sell those. And then at 14, somebody introduced me to cocaine and all that. So I started selling cocaine at the age of 14. Really getting heavily involved in like drugs and all that. So did all that all through high school, got really chaotic, tried to leave. So I joined the United States Navy, I wind up having a child. I got 3 kids. We have 6. I have 3, Ruthie has 3. So we're like the Hispanic Brady Bunch,
Come on.
We got a little dog named Max, and we ain't got an Alice, but we got a Maria that comes every now and then, And so we're in that life, I wind up leaving, trying to get away from it, but kind of messed up. I didn't know how to be a dad, so I got all that working against me. I didn't know how to be a father. I knew the title, I just didn't understand the role and the responsibility of a father. I wind up going to Virginia. Now I got a uniform, so now I'm transporting drugs with a Navy uniform, and the cops, when they stop me, they actually, like, I go, hey man, my boat's about to depart, so they would just let me go. They would never search me. So now I got a license. Don't go do that though. But now I got a license to go do this stuff. I'm standing on the block. I remember there were times where I was standing on the block. The detectives would roll up, and they would just kind of say, "Excuse me, oh, I'm in the Navy. I'm just here. Okay, move to the side," and they check everybody else. And so I'd be loaded down, gun, everything, and nothing. So as time unfolded, man, it's just, I go back home and I really get into the drug life. Never really stopped. I'm going into after hours. I'm selling to all kinds of people. It was really wild. I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I got tired of just like, I wanted to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like always, there was always like, oh, you say the next level, but in the world based on deception and a lie, I wanted to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Which I think sometimes we pull that into like Christianity. We'll talk about that later, I guess, right?
In the world, that's what it tells us. I mean, like me, when I was in my addiction, I was selling methamphetamine.
Yeah.
The big song, you had the Rick Ross.
Yeah.
And the big song was The Boss,
The Boss, yeah.
And he's talking about being the boss and moving keys and being in control. And you're seeing the music videos of all the cars and the money.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was the next level.
Oh, totally.
It was like Rick Ross, and now they're like DJ Khaled. God did, but
no, totally. Yeah, they're trying to integrate. Like that was my whole life. Like I went to most of the stuff that I guess the younger generation, you guys are watching on Netflix, like Studio 54, Hot Throb, Palladium. Like that was my scene. So I went to the clubs like Sunday through Saturday. Like I went all 7 days. I had clubs that I went to, and partied at Studio 54, Limelight, like I said, Palladium, Hard Throb, Devil's Nest, all those clubs. Like that, I'm rocking today the old school Adidas with the fat laces, but that's actually what I was rocking in '85. You know what I mean? And so
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, no, I was rocking those things. I had the chains, and so all this stuff was really glorified. So what winds up happening is I got this whole season of doing all this stuff. A series of events happens through that. When I'm getting divorced, I get remarried. Crazy. I have a daughter, right? All this stuff. But I'm trying to get us to the place where all of a sudden one day I decide I'm gonna go to Texas, because remember in the like Scarface days and all that, everything's coming through Miami. when Escobar and all that happened, because if you watch the the series or whatever. Well, in real life, when that happened, everything started moving over to Texas and Miami. It still happened, but all the stuff started moving there. So then what winds up happening is that I'm like, because Step Brothers, they had massage parlors, they had all kinds of stuff, right? Like we're talking Sopranos on HBO type stuff, right? And so I wind up moving. I told my mom, I said, I'm gonna go to Texas. She said, you don't know nobody there. But I was gonna meet the biggest connect ever. I'm like, I'm gonna be the biggest connect. And so I did. I met God, right? So I came to Texas on a dope deal. I wound up getting saved, right? So I come to Texas.
Wow.
I meet somebody. You only needed an ID. I didn't need a passport. I start crossing over Progreso, Reynosa, all those places, and I do wind up meeting. And then I wind up meeting like the number 6. The nephew of the number 6, one of the number 6 cartel guys back in the time. And so before you know it, I got really heavily involved. There's because of the war on drugs and all that stuff and the Escobar stuff, the keys are like 40 grand. They're like auctioning off keys in New York. And over here we're getting them for like 9.
You're talking about Escobar, so that's my wife's maiden name. And
Wow.
I arrested federal time.
Really?
Not associated with Pablo Escobar.
Totally. Yeah.
But they lived in a border town crossing the U.S. almost every day. And so that's always fun.
Yeah, totally. So McAllen and all that, that's where that Donna, McAllen, all those things.
Yeah.
So I wind up coming back on a blue warrant to Jersey. So I get stopped. I don't have anything. They just find me. They stop me. Boom. I got a
blue warrant means you had a violation?
I had a violation. Yeah, I had violation of
Parole?
I ran.
Probation?
I was running. I was running. So it was a blue warrant. You're getting locked up, right? So
Yeah.
so I wind up getting on a bus. I don't know if you remember the movie Con Air, right? I get on this bus. I'm the guy with the lowest charge.
Yeah.
But they're gonna put me on this bus. And it took me, I think, like 18 days to get from here to there, because they don't tell you where you're gonna go, right? So I'm somewhere, I think, one time in Amarillo. That was trippy, like where they just call your name. You don't know when you're getting, when you're leaving. They're just like, Martinez. You're like, whoa. It's like the middle of the night, and so I get on this thing. It's gonna take this journey to get there. You're shackled to the guy next to you. I meet a guy from Ohio, and he tells me, hey man, I don't have Jesus in my life for nothing at this time. I believed I had a relationship with God, but I felt like, for me, my relationship with God was real far away, and I was like Hail Mary prayers,
Yeah.
and raised Catholic, so the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I would say that over and over again. And so I thought I had a pretty good relationship. So I jump in the car. I jump in this bus, and we're in this bus, and he tells me, you want to make a lot of money? And so he says, you got to meet me in Breckenridge, Texas. And so I'm like, Breckenridge,
That's by
Texas?
San Antonio, right?
Oh, brother, let me tell you, the story gets, buckle up. Story's about to get wild. So I'm talking to this dude, and he's like, look, I say, well, how am I gonna meet you? You don't have a pen, a pencil, you can't get anything, because you're with all these guys got all their charges in the millions of dollars and like crazy charges. I'm like going back for a state bid.
Yeah.
But everybody else. So I'm shackled to him. He tells me the address. This is how demonic this is. He says, just write me to 506 West 6th Street, Breckenridge, Texas, 76424. I still remember the address. So I'm sitting there, and now I'm going 506 West 6th Street, Breckenridge, Texas. People be like, no, New York. And I'd be like, shut up. And so we would stop for 24 hours here, stop for 506 West 6th Street, Breckenridge, Texas, 76424. 18 days later, I got the Fidel Castro beard. I'm running into a jail in Jersey, and I'm like, somebody give me a pencil. I had to get the 506 West 6th Street. It just stood ingrained in me. I said it so many times, right?
Yeah.
I would go to sleep going 506 West 6th Street. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And write it down. I start writing over there. Before you know it, I'm going to get out. The person's writing me back. I think it's a girl. And I wind up going to Breckenridge, Texas. Yes, it is about 40 minutes from Abilene. It's Cisco, surrounded by Cisco, Albany, Ranger, Palo Pinto. You start getting to Mineral Wells, Weatherford, Dallas. So I wind up getting out, taking the bus there. Remember, I had the connects from before, so I had this plan that I had this guy from Florida coming to meet me, so I'm going to connect this guy and this guy. I'm just going to be the middleman, and I'm going to make about 25 grand in one shot, and I'm back on. That's my plan. But I wound up to Breckenridge, Texas. It's a small town. I'm talking, I'm this guy that comes from the city, and I have never in my life, I'm like, what is this? So this girl comes out. She's like, hey. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? She said, I'm here to pick you up. So I go, I'm going to do, in 3 days, I'm just going to stop there, have some fun, and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my plan. It was 3 days and keep going. So I wind up there. Before you know it, she introduced me to meth. Because I go, hey, is there any cocaine here? Marijuana, all the Puerto Rican drugs, you know?
Yeah, that's how I got on meth. I was on coke looking for coke, and somebody gave me
Really?
meth. Yeah.
So then, yeah, she winds up, boom. I'm smoking this thing in a bulb, right? And I've never experienced it. And it's like 4 days later, and I'm like, this doesn't do anything, you know? So I done messed up the drug deal. I don't have any money. Now I'm in Texas, no money, in a small town, and I know nobody. I mean,
with their tumbleweeds blowing.
My mom thought I wasn't. She's like, you don't know anybody. I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. And so I had to, backpack and stuff, some clothes. So anyway, now, she goes, hey, there's no money, but she takes me to this other girl's house, and that's where the two dealers were, country boys. They're there. They're cooking meth. They're doing all that stuff. And so I see her, and she's shooting meth. See the scars? Oh yeah, she's shooting meth. And in most of my life, I hate needles. I used to kick people out of the hallways in New York, like, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Like oh man, this is disgusting. Who would do that? Right? Never tell. You'll never know. That ride, you'll never know what you say. You say you won't do. You understand? So I'm here making tons of money doing all that to wind up and I having no money being in Breckenridge, Texas. But I still have the same mindset. So I get there, I see this girl, she shoots up and her eyes roll back and she's just this like, and I'm like, I want to feel that. And the dudes there don't know me, but they're like, you don't want to do that. And I was like,
Was
yeah.
she on some heroin?
She did meth. She shot up meth.
Was meth?
But yeah, because you get all warm and all that, right? I don't want to go there, but that's
Yeah.
right. You're like, it's like straight to the vein. It goes straight insane in the membrane for real, right? So all of a sudden, man, I see that and I said, yeah, but I didn't like needles and I always talk bad about them, so I turned to the side and I have her shoot me. So she shoots me and I don't know, man. It was like I was a drug dealer on steroids. What winds up happening, I meet an Aryan Brotherhood who's in that room. And usually a Puerto Rican guy from up north and Aryan Brotherhood don't click. But the enemy had a plan, right? You say, oh, God has a plan. So does the enemy. And you keep stepping in it, right? And so at this point, boy, I'm with this guy and I start going to Fort Worth to pick up, because he's meeting the Mexican. But here's the thing, I speak Spanish and well. So now I speak Spanish and well. He winds up getting incarcerated. Nobody knows what to do. I wind up calling the guy. Boom. Before you know it, I'm talking to this dude. Yeah. Boom. I have instantly become the guy.
Yep.
So then now I don't move like any other country folk. I'm a city guy, so I move 15 times faster. It's not a bad thing. I just don't know how to move slow. Listen to me talk right now. This is no coffee. I'm on water. Right? So give me a cup of coffee. We'll start talking. So now all of a sudden, boom, I start moving. So I wind up positioning myself, start selling in Breckenridge, Texas, but I'm shooting up now. And I'm not doing it myself. I have to carry somebody with me because I don't like needles. So I'm constantly doing this. Right? But boom. Before you know it, I become one of the main meth distributors from Mesquite, Dallas, Texas, all of 20, all of 30, going all the way to Odessa. So Midland, all that, right? And I'm selling to like motorcycle gangs, anything, truckers. Before you know it, I put this house in the middle and I start getting all these safe houses and I start wilding out. And it's a roller coaster ride that I wanted to get off, but I couldn't get off. Are you with me?
Going too fast.
I'm flying. And I mean, methamphetamines coming out the wazoo. And New York J. They all calling me New York J, And so to fast forward that, this happens for years. I do a year here, because I've done about 10 years of prison. And so, my last bid was 4. I've done a year here, year there, year here. No matter where I went, Florida, year there, Jersey, But my last one, I was facing 25 years. Before I get incarcerated this last time, I have a moment, because there was a guy in the small town. There was a guy in Fort Worth, head of the Bloods, and I am now superseding. He started me off, and now I ask him for an amount that he's like, you need that much? And I'm like, yeah. Because now, fast forward, stuff happened. I'm giving you the fast version. Stuff happened throughout time. Incarceration, all that. So obviously I wasn't with the big guy anymore, that guy. So I started going to this other guy. we're gonna remain nameless, but and
And if you don't have a lot of history and you're asking for big weight, they are going to get suspicious.
Oh,
Like,
big
who
time.
are you with? Where?
big
how,
time, big
is
time.
it
But this
set up?
guy
How do you
did,
got this
yeah, he
money?
totally didn't like though that I'm the only guy from out of town.
Yeah.
And I was doing crazy
Suspicious.
stuff. Yeah, big time. So, he winds up setting me up in Fort Worth, and I have a near-death experience. And I believe this is actually where I got saved. I right before that, or before that, either before that or after that, I'm losing track on exactly the timeline. But two things happened before I get incarcerated. That happens where I go and I go at this guy, I see the guy, I taste the stuff, boom, I pull him by his legs, he falls on the ground, I go like this, a guy comes out with a ski mask, he's got the girl, like this, he's like, get on the ground, they start kicking me, probably about 30 minutes, kicking me and hitting me with the gun. My head was probably out here, I got all scar here, I got a scar on the top of my lip, still to this day, my mustache is kind of hard to shave because it's crooked. I've been about in 11 gun incidents, and that one though, I'm laying there and I keep lifting my head and they keep hitting me with the 9. Before you know it, they took everything, but I had baggy pants and my cell phone kind of went to the side of my lap, my thigh, my inside of my thigh. And so I'm laying there and I hear the guy and I go, oh, I'm going to die. So I do what I know best. I don't even go, God. I go, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. The guy, I look up and they're in the car. They roll out. So I don't know if this guy maybe knew Jesus in the past, grandma, something. I don't know. An angel came out. I don't know. I know I went from the to ooh. So I know I'm jacked up when I get up and I look at the girl and the girl starts screaming. So I don't even look down until she starts screaming, oh my God. So I look down and I'm full of blood, man. And my head's out here. Like I said, the baggy pants helped me that day, baggy pants. I wind up having my cell phone in there. I dial 911. They're like, this is a bad drug deal. I tell them, nah, it's not. I got jumped. Nobody wants to let me in the motel. Nobody wants to let me know. So before you know it, the chaos of this is that I call another guy, and I wind up getting dope from him. They got me liquid stitches everywhere. I wound up getting dope because I wanted to get high because I have a problem and I don't know how to figure out my problem. I'm going to go get high, right? That's what we do, right? That's going to numb. You don't have to feel the emotion. You don't have to feel anything. Now I know all that. Back then, I was just getting high to stop all that. Well, crazy part is that I have another moment. Time passes and I have a moment. I'm in the car. I could count in these two hands how many times I was sober from like 22 maybe to 36. I could count in these two hands how many sober days I had. And so I have a sober day. I'm not smoking anything. I'm not doing anything. Because, smoking was like breathing, right? You're just smoking pot like all day long. And so I wind up getting in the car. There's a girl driver. I have about 6 to 8 ounces, I think, of meth. And we're about to just drop them off and go pick up. And so I get in the car and I start looking up. And I'll never forget this day. I started looking up. They actually did like a one of those, when a reenactment, TBN, they did a reenactment of that story, So I'm looking up at the clouds, and I've never heard God before. When you get baptized in the Holy Ghost and you're just frantically crying? Okay, that's what happens to me. I just start crying out of nowhere. I just start crying, right? Yeah. I'm staring at the clouds, and I just start crying. And I'm crying like crazy, crying like, right? And when I look to the side, the best way I could explain it is she's like, yo, what's wrong? But I'm just crying and crying and crying. Nothing happened. I'm just crying. And I hear these words: why are you killing, stealing, and destroying the very lives I'm giving people? And so I don't know how to process it. I just know I'm crying frantically. And I never read John 10:10. I just know I'm crying and I'm like, man. And so, like a faucet turning off, that's what happened. It was like I was crying. I heard that. He said, you're turning teachers into prostitutes, great fathers. He just gives me this list of what I'm doing. And so never read the Bible. I did my communion. I did all that. I knew John 3:16, but it had no power.
Yeah.
I just knew it. And all of a sudden, like a faucet being turned off, she's like, oh, you all right? And so I'm like, oh man, like, what happened? And so I started thinking, and I still delivered the meth. But then I started thinking of this time, the Our Father, what? This time,
So
I wind up
connecting it.
I went to the guy's the guy's house, and he has a shotgun in his lap. And I go like, why does he got a shotgun in his lap? And because I kind of know it's him, and he thinks I know it's him, but nobody's saying nothing.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted more drugs. So I go to him and I go, man, you can't believe it. I said, you didn't know nothing? He said, no, I didn't know nothing. Today, just in case he watches, I know who it was, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. It's covered in the blood, right? Literally, I was covered in the blood, but this is covered in the blood. So I wind up, man, he has me in the kitchen. He's going to give me this dope. And he says to me, you know you're going to hell. Now, think about how weird this is. That's the only guy in my whole entire life that has ever said something like that to me, and he's a drug dealer. Out of the blue. Who says that, right? What drug dealer goes, hey, you know you're going to hell? He tells me, you know you're going to hell. And I go, I ain't going to hell. And why you say that? And he's like, no, you're going to hell. He said, because remember in the car, you're killing, stealing, and destroying? He goes, cuz you're killing people, bro.
Somebody told me that same thing when I was selling.
No way.
They told me, you know you're going to hell for this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I tripped out. It made me think. I get in the car, I start thinking, like, man, but it still doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
I wind up getting incarcerated. Story events. I would go to people's houses. We did an outreach in Breckenridge, and my first outreach ever, about over 1,500 people showed up to this outreach because they couldn't believe it. They were like, what? This dude ain't safe. But they also all remembered that I used to go make drops and go, I think God's talking to me. They would be like, bro, you high.
Man, what's that $20 you owe me? You borrowed $20 from me 10 years ago. What's up?
Yeah. And so before you know it, I get incarcerated for something I didn't do. They're giving me 25 years. They had kicked in the door. They found me in a safe house in Weatherford. Interesting. Everybody was like a Fed guy. Everybody was a cop. There was a car on the side of the road for sale. Cops popped out of that. It's crazy. I was like, wow, you guys been watching? It's crazy. The hot dog vendor was like with a badge. I'm like, wow, all this time he was there. And so they kick down the door. They say, aggravated robbery, aggravated assault. I go, I didn't rob nobody. And so, boom, they find under 250 grams of meth. I get incarcerated in Weatherford, Texas. And when I'm there, I meet a guy. My wife thinks he's an angel because I got a pretty elephant memory type guy. I remember stuff pretty good. I used to say, I used to have, I don't remember. It was all the pie. And then I stopped confessing stuff like that. I started saying, I can't remember.
Yeah.
There's power in your words. And so anyway, I don't remember this guy's name. It's the only thing I really don't remember like that. And I go in, I'm facing 25 years, before I meet this guy, the detectives, they're before I get locked up, they're all talking to me and, I'm doing the lie detector test. I said, give me the lie detector test because I knew I didn't aggravate robbery, nobody. I didn't have to do that. When I was selling drugs, I pay people to do that. So I'm like, nah, I didn't. I'm like, I know I didn't hit nobody.
I tell my wife that all the time. I was like, as a drug dealer, I said, you can trade somebody a gram and you can get
whatever, anything you want.
Up. Dang.
So I go and so the guy says, he asked me the questions and then he goes, the detective, and I go, what? He goes, you want me to help you, right? I go, yeah. He goes, well, that night you were high and you hit the guy in the head and I jumped up. I'm like, I didn't do that. How could you say I did that? I started sorry. After about the third time, because he did it to me 3 times, I got up and I started yelling, I didn't do that. I'm a drug dealer. So now I'm confessing I'm a drug dealer. The guys come out behind the window and they were cops from Breckenridge. And they were like, so they got a confession of selling drugs. I still had to, they still had to prove that I was in a certain place at the time. Everything got proved. So they dropped the 20. I was facing 25 years. They ended up giving me 4. And so I meet the guy. The guy says he's a pastor. I go like, you ain't a pastor. I go, you're a pastor and you're locked up. I didn't even know what a pastor was. I only knew a priest, bald head guy with a collar, and I didn't know the identity of a priest and all that. I just knew priest, Catholicism. And so he's like, no, I'm a pastor. I'm here for you. And so I go, how are you here for me? And so he had me thinking, though. I went to my cell and started thinking, here for me.
Yeah.
Before you know it, I see the dude, he's in his cell and he's prostrated on the ground with a blanket the next day. I go work out. He's still down like that. I go take a shower. I bust out some ramen noodles. Boom, I'm eating. He's still there. Before you know it, an hour later, he gets up. I go, yo. He had my attention. He comes by the gate. We're talking, and he's like, you know what? He said, I said, what were you doing? He said, I was praying. I said, how many Our Fathers did you say? Because I never knew you could talk to God. I said, how many Our Fathers did you say, bro? He goes, I wasn't saying an Our Father. He goes, I was talking to the Father. And he said, you ever read your Bible? So he starts leading me and talking to me. He said, I'm innocent. I said, you're innocent. He said, yeah. He said, I'm a pastor. And he said, my ex-wife, she still comes by, started a big argument. Neighbors called the cops. She had a crack pipe. She was addicted to drugs, threw it under the seat. So we both got incarcerated. He said, but I'm leaving because I'm still at county at this point. He goes, but I'm leaving. I'm innocent. So the guy starts talking to me about how to eat the word. He said, man, don't. He said, what did you get out of it? Because I went that night and started reading. It's like, oh, this is amazing. It was like Beetlejuice. It pulled me in, And he goes, no. He goes, how you eat the word? He said, remember your first Snickers in commissary? You remember that? I'm going to show you something. So you pull that joker out and you take a bite, right? And out here, you eat a Snickers. Out in there, you feel every layer, baby.
Yeah.
You wrap it and you kind of put it to the side because you ain't gonna eat it all.
Yeah.
But then you wind up picking it back up and eating some more, right? So you're not so funny. You can eat a Snickers and you get longevity on that joker. But like you savor that joker, right? You're like every layer. And he said that's how you read the word. He said you digest every. Yeah, right. And I got that, right? Because I've been locked up so many times. I'm like, okay, I get that. So he's like chewing the cud, right? Hits a couple stomachs, digest, right? And he's like, that's what you have to do with the word. It kept going. One day, I had the favor of Joseph. They always put me in like, I don't know, a good position. So I've become like this main guy in the kitchen. I asked the CEO, hey, let me go bring this food to this guy. I keep thinking one day I'm going to remember his name. So I go to this guy and I go and they go, he's innocent, bro. He's free. He went home. And I was like, he went home? And so I got fired up because I was like, man. And so it changed my life. Before you know it, went to prison, did all this stuff. Oh, while I'm in prison.
So you were in Texas prison?
TDC. I was in Texas prison. I did Florida for about a year. I did Jersey for about a year.
I never knew you were in Texas prison. I thought
TDC.
I that you were from
Nah.
Manhattan and you got all in trouble there
No.
Maybe you came here to restart your life over.
No, that didn't work.
Gotcha.
I can't. I got TDC. I still got my number 1544-981. That's my Texas number.
Well, okay, I'm 152. 15253. Oh man, our numbers were close.
Yeah, man. Hey, we walked right by each other.
So I went in 2008. What you must have been right
about
there.
2007, 2008. Yeah, about 2008.
Wow.
I think I got saved 2008.
Okay. Dang. So we were in prison.
I think I got out. I think I got locked up in 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2007 because I did 3 years and I got out close to 2010 and then did a year parole.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and so I've also done state jail in Texas. Rock and roll, baby. That's rock and roll school.
Day for day.
they fighting, and so yeah, I wind up. While I'm in prison, I'm fired up. I work for the chaplain. I'm in Mineral Wells. That was rock and roll too over there. COs were on heroin and everything. It was crazy out that joker. And so I felt unprotected. I'm like, I feel unprotected. But
by the people that are supposed to
protect me. So I'm fired up and I love the Lord and I'm sitting on a bunk and this kid walks in. And, I didn't meet my son Jonathan until he was 19. My daughter, they all, praise God, they all came down. They're all saved now. They all live in Texas. So it's kind of cool how God restored my whole entire family.
Man.
But a kid walks in, his name, I say, hey, what's your name? And I'm thinking, I'm going to disciple this joker. And so he walks in, his name's Jonathan. He goes, my name's Jonathan. So I have a son named Jonathan. But that's not my son named Jonathan, but I have a son named Jonathan. So when I see him in my heart, I go, man, you know what? Man, he's like my son. He's a young kid. His name's Jonathan. So I take him under my wing and I start discipling him. Later, the woman you met outside, my baby Ruth, I marry his mom. Crazy, right? So God brought in a Jonathan to connect me with that Jonathan to later marry his mom.
Wow, that's crazy.
No, that's God. Yeah, man. We have a saying.
So your wife, your marriage came out of someone you met
In prison.
In prison.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so we get my baby Ruth, shout out. I love chocolate. When God gave me my baby Ruth, I knew he loved me. Ooh, he gave me a chocolate bar. And so, boom, before you know it, I get out, I go to Calvary Commission, which, was funny because I knew Ruthie then, and then it was like, she was like, well, I don't know if I could wait. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go over there. I'm not going to go to Houston yet. It was the first time in my life that I was making some mature decisions. I just knew what would happen. And I told her, look, you don't want me to go over there and like fall because I'm going to jack you up. She's like, no, you're not. I go, I'm going to jack you up in like 20-mile vicinity and everything outside of that. Like, I'm going to jack that. I was a terror, man. Like, I'm taking over whole cities. Like, I'm messing up everything.
Yeah.
Right? I was the hands and feet of Jesus, hands and feet of the devil.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm doing it all. I've cut out a lot of the story just to consolidate it. But we're doing Annie runs, we're cooking meth. Got the meth cook, the houses, the image is crazy, right? Money's just flowing in. I never thought I had a problem, but I was doing tons of meth. I just got a guy that wrote me a letter. When the letters start, we're like, hey, New York J. I'm like, oh, right? And the letter, and he took me back to a moment which I'm probably going to do this show and probably read the letter and kind of talk because they want me to kind of, some of those guys, the other guys don't believe that guy knows me, right? Because of everything God's done in my life.
Yeah.
And so he read this letter. He said, remember that day? He said, I was going to shoot you too. So there was a point, I was in Breckenridge. There was this guy named Smiley who was standing in front of me. And the guy says that he was going to shoot me too, but I disappeared. Now, the interesting part, it was probably about 5 steps to this doorway of this house. I only remember taking 1 step back, but I was gone. So the guy, bam, bam, shoots him 3 times, head, shoulder here, bam, bam, bam. Would have turned this way. That's seconds. So I don't even know how, grace of God, right? Like, yeah. I teleported, baby. Like, I was, you know what I'm saying? Or he probably would have shot me in the face. The fact that he wrote me the letter that tells me, like, yo, that day I was going to shoot you too, and I hated you. I was like, man. But now he's watching me on the Pando, and now he's like, man. So he's like, he's working.
I've gotten some of those letters, even from people, Sally, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or people who knew me before Christ, and it just totally and it stressed my wife out because my wife just knows good little Christian Cody. So she's
my wife too.
What the heck?
Yeah, my wife too. Yeah, totally. So I wind up, getting out, and Jonah got spit out of the mouth of the whale, just like you. I got spit out of the mouth of the jail. So now I'm running, and I wanted to go everywhere and like share the gospel. So I went to the Calvary Commission. Boom, Ruthie. After a while, me and Ruthie get married. She's the first woman in my life because at this point, I wanted to do everything. I just read the Bible and I go, okay, this is what it's saying, so I'm gonna do it. This is saying I'm gonna do it.
They say if you want what you never have, you have to do something you've never done.
Totally.
And that was maturity, like on your part, to know like what you were saying. You were telling, Ruth at the time is like, hey, I got to know my limits. I can't put myself in these triggering situations.
Totally.
And that's the biggest thing that we work with people that are getting out. A guy that just got out 2 weeks ago. He's in the Beaumont Transitional Center, but then he's coming to San Antonio.
Dope.
God told him here for be a part of Worthy People and all this. And so I'm working with him and discipling him, but it's being able to, what do they say? People, places, things.
People, places, things.
But to identify those, like, no, I can't. And so sometimes when we come to Christ, and those watching in the inside, and for my boy Tony that I know is watching, that's here on the outside, will say, well, I'm different now. I'm changed now.
Totally.
Like, I can put myself in that situation, and it's like, be careful where you stand, lest you fall. Like, you got to know your triggers. And then, when Brian had come through, my wife told Brian, say, man, look out, this dude. And she put him on blast. And one thing that Brian told him is like, man, I've been walking with the Lord for some years, and even I wouldn't put myself in that situation that you're trying to put yourself in, with this girl and all that. But that's that maturity of like knowing, hey, I know I can't go around certain things and certain people.
Well, all day long, right? Because here's the thing, and I always tell people this. When I go into the prisons, I always tell them, like, look, you think that when you walk out the door, you're going to be free, but you were incarcerated before you got incarcerated. In other words, your thinking was incarcerated. That's how you wound up in the same spot. We all wound up in the same spot because of our thinking. And I always tell people, hey, how many of y'all been locked up more than once? That, 90%, 95% of the room raises their hand, right? So then I go, maybe I have something to tell you. Maybe Cody has something to tell you. Maybe worthy people know something, right? Because I haven't got locked up. I'm going on year 16. Are you with me? 16, clean and sober, right? I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think at year 15 was on a Sunday morning when I was worshiping, I kind of was like, it just hit me. But I haven't counted at all till year 15. Then I was like, oh, man, 15. So now I know I'm going to 16, But the crazy part is that the only thing that deals with deeply rooted issues is new experiences. That's why you have to be born again. So you can't do the same thing in order to go somewhere else. And I know that sounds like, they say insanity, doing the same thing. Okay, those are all real cute. And yes, they are true. What I'm telling you is you have to, like I was saying, Ruthie was the first woman, let me tell you something, that I didn't have sex with until I got married. So messed it up all my life, but she's the first woman that I did this with. And it was interesting because she didn't understand it yet. I had about 4 years of Christianity to her 1 year, 1.5 year. I was praying for her to go get a Bible with her son before she was my wife. I was praying for, it was kind of wild, because we were like Ruthie, and we'd be all happy. Later we would hear the stories of how she found the church and how she, and then when we got together, we did a little kissing, and all of a sudden like everything got hot and bothered, right? And I remember like for the first time being the guy to like, no. It was the weirdest thing in the world. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me, So I push her, and I go, no, you're not going to get in the way of the plan God has for my life.
Man.
And she's like, you don't love me. She goes, you're either gay or you don't love me. And I was like, I'm not gay, and I do love you, and here's the problem. I remember telling her this. I go, here's the problem. Every other guy that you've ever been with, you might have, they might have took you out to dinner, you might have had sex, you might have had this stuff. They all said they loved you just to get something from you. I said, I'm going to be the first guy in your whole entire life. I'm going to be the first guy that honored you and respected you. And until you become mine, I'm not going to take anything that doesn't belong to me. That was my quote. And so she left, slammed the door, right? And I remember tearing up because it was so hard to not have sex. But I knew that God had a plan for my life. And I knew that if I defeated that, then I would never get high again. That was my thought. I was like, you know what? If I don't fall for this. And so she came back. She said, I'm so sorry. That's how I knew she was going to be my wife. She said, I'm so sorry. Because I was actually like, all right, well, I guess it's over, because I can't do this. She said, hey, I'm so sorry. We're going to do whatever it is you want to do. And so I knew then. I said, okay. This girl wants to do this. So I said, all right, we're going to create boundaries. So we created boundaries. She had to wear sweats, no short shorts, no thighs, all that. I was like, nah, look, you're about to turn into one of them old Pentecostals with the, what I'm saying? I no ankles. I did, because I was like, look, I said, here's the thing. We both know already what it is like to date in the worldly way. I said, are you married? She's like, no. I go, neither am I. None of it worked. Why don't we just give God's one shot? Yeah. I mean, what do we have to lose? We already know everything the other way. Mm-hmm. One shot. What do you have to lose to do it God's way? You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. And that's exactly what happened. Our marriage is super blessed. I mean, God has done, we have a saying on the wall. We have a wall on our church that says, that's crazy. And then we have, no, that's God. Because when people say that's crazy, I always tell them, no, that's God. The world says that's crazy. I go, no, that's God. I used to always say that's crazy, But then I started realizing it's not crazy at all. Because what's impossible for man is possible with God, right? And God has restored my whole entire family. He's given me an incredible wife. I'm actually in love with her. And I know that sounds like, well, yeah, no, I'm in love with my wife. You with me? Like I've probably used, before Jesus, I loved every girl. You get what I'm saying? Come on, let's just be real. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, we're two meth heads. Oh, I love you too, right? Like, no, we were loving what we were doing. This is the first woman that I can actually honestly look in the eyes and be like, yo, I love you. I want to be with you. Like, I want to hang out with you. Like, I hang out with my wife all the time. Like, we hang out hard too. she's at, God has blessed us to where, we came out before, we started helped a church by being Spanish pastors. It's kind of funny. Side note, I did the thing I did not want to do, and it seemed insignificant, and that's where I actually found my true purpose. Because I'm gonna evangelize. I'm traveling. I'm evangelizing. I'm doing all this stuff. I was on 100.7 the radio for a couple years. All of this stuff was wild to me because it was like scratching my head. Like, how did I even wind up here, right?
Yeah.
And before you know it, we plant, little Bible study, 8 people. We were wrapped in. I wrote in prison on a King James Bible that was all beat up, because you keep going. I wrote wrapped in the love of Christ. I wrote 2 things: wrapped in the love of Christ, and I wrote revival. Didn't even know what revival was. Didn't understand it. Didn't know what the word meant. I just heard it in my spirit, wrote it down. It's in my Bible, and I wrote wrapped in the love of Christ. When it come out, I was like, man, wrapped in the love of. I said, Lord, that sign's gonna be like 5 miles. This is really what happened. People were like, oh, how'd you come up with the name? I go, yo. I was like, Lord.
Visit our website at www.getwrappedintheloveofchrist.com.
It was like so long, but the meaning of wrapped in the love of Christ.
Yeah.
That I was going to be protected, secure. He was going to provide everything. I was going to be good. I'm in comfort under the pinning of his wings. I was sitting. I said, it's going to be so long, and so the Lord shared with me. He said, you're going to be called Get Wrapped, and people are going to ask you what it is, and you're going to tell them about me. And we're the only Get Wrapped church in the world. It doesn't exist. It's only one, and it's unique, and it's ours, and and not ours, it's his, But I love that because I feel like we each have a unique thing. Like, you have worthy people. God gave you that name.
I think we're the only one. I don't know any other.
Yeah, He gave you that name. And that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
If I look at that name and I go, oh, it's cool, and I do it, not as special. If God gives you a name, that's special. It doesn't matter what it is. So, there's been times, right, through the context of time that you think, oh, I want to change it. I want to this because, Get Wrapped. They're like, Get Wrapped. All the, people go like, what's that? They people in our
I don't want to be a mummy.
Yeah, they're like, hey, they thought it was tacos. They thought it was everything. They thought it was all kinds of stuff, but a church. But, it's just
They showed up on Sunday morning for breakfast.
For breakfast. Hey, listen,
guy, use anything.
Got to use anything. Yes, sir. And so it's cool. We launched Get Wrapped Church. We have an incredible team. We partner with Kingdom Music a lot. I serve as an elder for Kingdom Music. So I've been kind of one of Brian's mentors for a long, long time. Ernesto, all those cats. I'm the old dude. I'm the OG, right? I'm the older guy, but they keep me young. They're pretty incredible, on fire people for the Lord, right? And what ends up happening is we start doing that. We plant 8 people. Before you know it, I think today, to fast forward, we have a church in Spring, Texas called Get Wrapped Church, where we launched our 3rd service last week. Our 2nd service was on Overflow, which is crazy. I don't know.
So you preach 3 times on Sundays.
I preach 3 times on Sundays.
Wow.
Obviously, we're on the Pando app. This is real. In the context of that, one day
and the church services are on there. Get Wrapped church.
Yeah,
services.
They're on there.
So you hit them with that what do you call the roundhouse? Like you hit them and they come back up and you hit them again. Yes, you're like, here's Get Real, boom. Here's Get Wrapped, boom.
Yeah, totally. Because when we did the show, This Is Real, it was more out of the real people, real problems, real solutions, and it was more in the context of like, okay, we just want to be real and raw. We just, I want to take what I'm preaching sometimes, and I just want to have a conversation about it and have different thoughts, school of thoughts. But, I don't know. God has just wowed us. We got on the Pando app. Maybe we were on week 7. Your numbers are incredible. They're beautiful. We got on week 7, so it's really just getting it out there.
Only God, man.
Yeah, only God. I don't know if we're like 200,000, 300,000 views, I think. Somewhere there. But again, just really getting in there. So spread the word,
Yeah. Well, so many, I did want to point out to you is that, we receive, hundreds and hundreds of letters per week.
Yeah.
And I would, a good chunk of the mail that we get, people say who they watch.
Oh, wow.
And I've never seen... no one's ever written us that says I watch Worthy People that doesn't say that they watch
This is real.
This Is Real or
that's
Juan
dope.
Martinez. And so I really never had heard of your
crazy,
stuff or
right?
seen your stuff, and then until they were writing in the prison. And so I was like, man, what are they talking about? And I took a look at it and then went on YouTube, and I was like me, Worthy People, as far as doing this podcast, is kind of new to the game. I mean, we're a radio podcast, but video's new to the game. I went to YouTube, and I'm like, you've been on video for years, and you have crazy numbers. I think on YouTube I might get 50 views, but I mean, I'm seeing like, oh man, like you've been doing this for some years.
Yes,
like
sir.
you got a lot of content to pull from.
Yeah.
Like you could never even record an episode for Pando and
put
you
it
got
on
about
there.
2 years worth of
The
content.
Lord has blessed us. The Lord has
And
blessed us.
so I checked out, and I mean, and also you got a book.
We have a book called Beyond the Yellow Brick Road. So it's kind of wild. Was one day, I was sitting in my office. It was executive suites too. It's kind of funny, but I was sitting in this when we were in these offices, and I was just praying, and I felt like the Lord started speaking to me about the streets of gold in heaven. And it's like, when heaven is released on the earth, it's like a light, right? And He lights that path. And just kind of talking. And one day I was talking to the church in the morning, and before you know it, I went into the Wizard of Oz story. I just started like using an example of Wizard of Oz, and so I'm gonna give it to you right now, real quick.
Yeah, when you said that name, I was like, "Isn't that Wizard of Oz?"
Yeah, Dorothy. And so this is what the Lord showed me. So it has nothing to do with wizards or anything like that, because you always get the haters and, oh my God, how could you write a book about wizards? I was like, did you read it? It has nothing to do with wizards.
Please,
so it
no
kind
hate
of goes into the story, into my story a little bit, but it teaches you how to identify the lie, and replace it with the truth, right? Because you were talking earlier. It says you shall know the truth, right? So when you know the truth, you got to identify lies. If you don't identify the lie, you're going to repeat the cycle and the pattern. You got to really be honest with yourself. I tell my kids all the time, if you lie to yourself, you lie to everybody else. So in the Dorothy film, remember, it starts off black and white, and Ani M and all the guys, they're like, hey, you worry too much, you do this too much, you do that too much. And she wants to get away, because that's what most Christians do anyway. They want to run away from the trouble, right, rather than face it head on. So what happens is that she starts running away, and there's a storm coming. So then before you know it, everything's black and white. She goes into the house. It starts spinning, and starts spinning. And all of a sudden, she gets hit in the head with the window. The Lord showed me that, the storms are like a shot in the head that shows you the window to see from. When she looks out, she sees all these things. Because the neighbor that wanted to take her dog, actually, she saw her as a witch, right? And so all of these things that tormented her, and it lands in a place and everything turns into color. I like saying that heaven is colorful like that, right? The promises are a rainbow. So boom, she lands, all of a sudden the house lands on the Wicked Witch, and there's some red ruby slippers, and so they wind up on Dorothy's feet. A witch comes and wants to take the shoes off of Dorothy's feet, but she can't. So the Glenda, the good witch, which I call the Holy Spirit, tells her, gives her advice. All the little munchkins come out, all the lollipop cans, all those things. And before you know it, she says, hey, you're going to follow the yellow brick road, the path that leads to your answers, right? Which in that place is called Oz, the great and powerful God, right? But I call God, but there it's Oz. And so she tells her to take the yellow path and follow it start from the beginning. I call that the book of Genesis. If we return and restore everything, you could see the relationship that they had. And so he starts walking, and she starts walking through this thing, and she winds up always at a crossroads. She has a scarecrow, the Tin Man, and they all mean something, right? One wanted courage, the other one, the oil, I call it the anointing, and I have a whole chapter about the anointing, and they all have something. One did not believe in himself, because at the end he only got the badge and he believed. But the interesting part of all this is, I'm giving you the synopsis of the book. You wind up going to the end of this Wizard of Oz. She's waiting for the answer, and he doesn't give her the answer. He actually tells her to go get the broom from the witch, because you see, you have to go face the very thing that's been tormenting you. So she shows up. She wants the shoes. Give me the shoes, but she can't take the shoes. And most of us, what we do is we give up the shoes. We give the authority to the enemy, and he can't take it. She couldn't take it either. Yeah. She grabs a bucket of water, which I call that the word. And one bucket of water, one word will destroy the very thing that has been tormenting you. When she throws the bucket of water, I'm melting, I'm melting. She winds up melting. And then I thought she was going to get jumped by all the witch's minions. But no, they actually look at her and go, thank you, because you've set us free. You see, because when you take one word from the Lord and you allow that word to destroy the very thing that's been tormenting you, not only are you free, but everyone else. That's what's happening with you, worthy people. God set you free, and now no matter where you go with that word, by the word of the testimony, right, people are getting set free. So it's not just you for getting set free. And the cool thing about this book is that when we launched this book, I think it was 2 years ago, we've been on this thing, 124,116 inmates, something like that in the state of Texas. It was about 106 prisons. And so we every book we sell, we give a book away to an inmate. So far, somehow one summer we wound up in Alaska, and we wound up giving 12 prisons they have out there, 5,000 inmates, and we covered the whole state of Alaska. So the whole prison in Alaska was covered with the book. Now we come back, I think we've done about 5 or 6 prisons. We still got like 100 prisons to go. In Texas. Somehow now it's just wherever I go, right? Maybe we'll partner and we get a couple books to the prisons that you go to. And the thought is that when people buy a book, God's plan was like, look, you really want to see people free? I said, absolutely. Mm-hmm. This book is not just for the incarcerated, but the person with the incarcerated mind. Because remember, I had the bars set around my heart. And so when you buy a book, I'm hoping you get free, but somebody else is getting set free. Yeah. And so that's what the book is about. Right now we're writing a relationship book. So,
Cool. They love that relationship talk.
Yeah, I think it's important.
If there's somebody that's on the inside that wants a copy of the book, or maybe they want their loved one, how would they find it? Is it like on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Beyond the Yellow Brick Road with Juan Martinez. There's the workbook there, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's kind of neat. And yeah, we
And what units do you guys go into? You
just messed me
church.
up. You messed me up. Let me tell you why. Because
ministry.
Because I have a team that kind of sets all that up, and by now my brain's I have so many things in there.
Carol Vance.
We do go to Carol Vance. We do. Yeah, we went to Beto. We went to what was the one that you were talking to me earlier? Clemens unit. Yeah.
Yeah, you were on the Don't Forget the Forgotten.
Don't forget. Oh yeah, with Brian.
Kingdom
Yeah,
Music,
we did the whole tour with them. I think I missed a day or two because I had to go back to the wife. But yeah, we're hitting. I think we're gonna be in Ohio, hitting some prisons there. So no matter where I go, I try to hit a prison.
Man, you're a busy man. 3 church services. You're in San Antonio because y'all been traveling and everything like that for the past week.
Yeah, we've been blessed to kind of travel and preach, and just got, and this is not really about the accolade, but I like to put it out there because my goal was to do this just to give hope to the people that are incarcerated or on drugs, or maybe you just never did anything. Remember, I started my life when I was 40. So I got out, I was 40 years old, okay? I got saved at 36. I was in prison, 36, 40, I'm out, I get out, 39, going to 40. So I say 40, round it up. But I'm 52 now, and 2 weeks ago I got my doctorate.
Man.
So I got my doctoral degree, did the John Maxwell School, so the only thing I haven't accomplished yet, which is my next goal, and I got to say this publicly so that way I can hold myself accountable, but is really like to start working out the way I was working out when I was in prison, because I just wanted, I didn't want to just be healthy and read and study when I was in prison. So I did a lot of studying in prison, did Louisiana Baptist University, did a lot of studies that they would send me in, and I just, I go, why can't we do those things out here? Why can't we do those things out here? Why we got to be like healthy and good and everything when we're locked up? But when we get out, we're not gonna hold ourselves to a standard that helps other people. The whole they say, oh, the accolade and all that. That's awesome. But the only reason was so that somebody else could say, man, I could do that. I could go back to school. Remember, I came out at 40.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse for anybody else, and we're still going after it. The goal, I don't know if it's campus. I don't really know. I know we're doing a lot of things, got the doctorate. So now Dr. Love kind of goes well. Very passionate about marriage. We're doing Love Wins conferences. Maybe in the future we'll do it in different places. Right now we're doing it in Houston. I think we're going to Ohio. I think last year we did it in Denver. And obviously, whatever it is God wants us to do, right? I kind of live like this, and whatever he wants us to do, we do.
Yeah.
The relationship book, that's currently being worked on. That was just because I felt like, I was praying again, and I felt like the Lord was like, you know what the problem is? He said, you guys are screaming from the rooftops to have a relationship with Christ. And I said, well, how could that be a problem? Isn't that what? He said, yeah. He said, but if you don't know what a relationship is, and you don't understand relationship, then you don't know the roles and responsibilities to that relationship. So therefore, you think you have a relationship, but you really don't. So the book is, in the context, it'll have marriage and all that stuff, but really explaining to you what a relationship looks like.
Because most of us, I mean, I came from dysfunctional home growing up in addiction. I mean, we didn't have any healthy relationships by the world standards, much less a God, relationship either. So that's something good. And a lot of you watching, the relationship stuff because you desire that.
Yeah.
But you got to do it God's way, like he was sharing. I mean, so just here in closing, I was going to ask you if you could just share maybe some encouraging words to those that are watching. I don't know what they're going through right now. They could be in SEG. They could be on Life Row. They could be recently received bad news. Maybe their family fell off. They don't get any contact from the outside. They don't get visits. They don't have anything. And they're watching this today because they truly have faith and believe what the Word of God says, that he's not a respecter of persons, and that what he did for you and what he's done in my life and so many others, that he could do for them. And maybe they're just having a hard time, like, man, God, how could I ever get, to the next level? How could I get there? And maybe they just need some encouragement to get to the next day, not even the next level. So I just asked him, what would you what words of encouragement could you share?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you this, because I had this guy, that had came out. He started the church with me, and then he kind of fell off. And then he saw me later, and he said, "Man, you're home. I'm the first guy in my family to have a house and all that." So it's,
same here, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of wild, but. He's like, man, I said, look, here's your problem. I was telling the guy, I said, your problem is I took an axe and I sharpened my axe, and then I hit this tree, and I was okay with this tree, and I didn't stop hitting the same tree. I said, you hit this and it wasn't fast enough, so you went to this tree and this tree and this tree and this tree. You got about 800 trees half parted. So when he first got out, he said, I told him I got him a job. So he started working. He wasn't making enough. I said, no, you're making a lot. He said, what do you mean? I said, the guy I put you with is discipling you. He loves the Lord. He's been sober for so long. He's doing all this stuff. I said, look at that as money.
Valuable. Yeah, not everything has a dollar sign.
So my encouragement to you is there's a scripture that says all things, and we know. The key part there, look, and we know that all things work together for those who are called according to God's purpose, right? And we know. The all things work together is cool, but the we know is the major part of that scripture. I want you to know who God is, that he's so good that he is like taking threads of life and kind of weaving this masterpiece or weaving this tapestry, and you're the tapestry. And if you were on the other side of that, which you are, and he's the one seeing what's happening, then he sees this great picture. I don't know if you guys ever seen a tapestry, the yarn in India they make. Well, it's this beautiful picture they're making, but on the other side, it just looks like a bunch of yarn that's sticking out. And you get upset about this yarn, and you get upset about that yarn, and you get upset about this yarn. Stop worrying so much about all these seasons that you're going through, and we know that all things, knowing who God is and that he's a loving father and that he does all these things, knowing that lets you know that he is with you every step of the way. There was a time where when I was locked up and I would see people lining up to see if they were going to get parole. And let me tell you something. I used to look at that and I used to ask God 5 million questions. And one day he said to me, Juan, until you could spend time with me and be happy, you'll never make anybody else happy. That changed my life. I started to embrace every single thing I was going through. You're like, but this one's tough. Well, it depends. There's a difference between a test and a temptation, right? And both the same word, just the source, the purpose, and the outcome is different. So I challenge you today to get to a place which you actually trust the Lord with all your heart and stop leaning on what you understand. And acknowledge him in all your ways. And he promises to make everything straight. What is that saying? That in every season, keep thinking about him and how good he is and that he has a plan. And just as much as when we looked back, when I first got out, bro, I spent like a year where I didn't have any finances. I just kept thanking the Lord. I kept walking the Lord. I kept hitting that same tree. I stayed consistent and I stayed committed. And guess what? In time, humility is the first step to change. And in time, stay in that humility and stay consistent and committed, and you're going to see all that God has for you. Stop complaining about today because God holds your future.
Man, that's good. Man, y'all heard it here from Pastor Juan Martinez with Get Wrapped Church, with This Is Real. Check out his stuff here on Pando. He's someone like me that it was formerly incarcerated. And you can see and hear from his story, man. He beat addiction. He beat, doing more time first in his family to own a home, married today. All those things came after he surrendered his life to Jesus Christ. And so you guys heard it. So he never chased these things. He just chased after God, and God took care of him. And so we thank you for being here today on the Worthy People
Worthy
podcast.
People, come on.
Yeah, and we're so glad that you stopped by today. So check his stuff out here on Pando. And this, again, is another great illustration in Pastor Juan's life, is that this is next level with God. Hey, thank you for watching this video here on YouTube. My name is Cody and I'm the pastor with Worthy People. I'm so glad that you watched this week's episode, and I just wanted to take an opportunity to let you know our mission is to remove the labels of society by seeing and accepting all people as Jesus does. We could not do what we do or do this work without the help of people like you. And so we invite you to check out our website at www.worthypeople.org. We also ask you to consider partnering with us or sowing into this ministry. It doesn't have to be something huge. Any little amount helps. We have people that they've agreed to be able to send $10 a week, $20 a month, whatever it is that you feel you could do. You help us make an impact of taking the message of Jesus to people in prison and people in our community. And so the ways that you can do that is on our website that I mentioned before, and just click the donate button and you can give securely online. You can also give through cash sharing apps, $, Worthy People on the Cash App, at Worthy People on Venmo, and on PayPal it is My Worthy People. Also, we have a text to give number that's here on the screen below that you can text to give. We ask you if you would consider being able to partner so that we can continue doing this great work. We love you and your family. If there's a way that we could pray for you, praise report, please contact us. Our contact methods are here on the screen as well. And we can't wait to see you with a new episode next week. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe and share it with your friends. And just remember that God says that you are worthy, no matter who you are or what you've done through His Son, Jesus Christ. We love you, and we'll see you next time.